everyone. Before we start the episode off, if you wanted to check out our audio-only episodes, you can go to Spotify and iTunes or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Also, if you go to iTunes, if you could leave us a 5-star review, that would be dope, and it really does help out. And if you want to support us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/volume1pod.
Not only can we relate to this, me and Megan are both wearing animal ears right now.
Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Volume 1 Podcast. My name is Josh Oniisan Michaels, and today, as always, I'm joined by our friends...
Megan, girlfriend to a comedian, Perrine.
Oh boy, too real.
Cody Bunny guy, I don't really remember anything specific from him, Decker.
Oh, great.
Great.
Are you guys ready to get the show on the road? Because I am.
For some ABC calisthenics?
Oh.
If you don't know anything about this manga series, then you're probably wondering, what the hell are they doing? Today we're going to be reviewing Volume 1 of Life Lessons with Uramichi Oniisan, a beautiful, dark
not
story.
What I thought it was going to be.
At all.
I knew it was going to be like that because I read the synopsis before I started reading
Megan,
it.
this series goes way back. I have the synopsis. I'm going to read it in a minute. But this series goes way back. It has a little bit of history on the podcast. We were doing a traditional, regular Barnes & Noble, Volume 1 Barnes & Noble trip. And Megan decided to pick this up because she'd heard some good things about it. And then we had a Discord member recommend this series to us. And it's about time that we finally got around to talking about it. It has a misleading cover. It looks like it's going to be cute. It looks like it's going to be fun, but it's quite the opposite. It is fun in its own dark way, though. The synopsis for this series is 31-year-old Uramichi Oniisan is a former professional gymnast with a decidedly cynical outlook on life. So, of course, he's one of the hosts of a children's show. He tries his hardest, which admittedly isn't always very hard, to be the happy and perky Oniisan he's supposed to be. But with coworkers with their own issues, a director who takes blatant advantage of them, and a life that didn't quite turn out the way he expected, sometimes those darker moments slip through. Pay attention, kids. Uramichi Oniisan has some words of wisdom for you. And I think that's a very good summation of this series.
Yeah.
It did a good job of establishing that it's not what the cover implies in the first page.
Absolutely. While this is another series that has a lot of self-contained sort of mini stories, before we get too deep into it, I do want to know, Megan, you knew going into it, but Cody, what did you even expect just by looking at the cover?
I thought it was going to be... I don't know, some chibi thing where it's like it's like slice of life, but there's a moral at the end. And the lesson is to be energetic. I did like when it started getting dark, but then at a certain point I was like, I mean, his life isn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean,
his life is actually pretty solid.
But I think what it is and what it speaks to is being a I don't know if it's with him specifically, but it does speak to being like a creative person and having sacrificed your creative dreams for a paycheck in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And while it is a story about life and being an adult and work and working, it also has its funny moments. But I will be honest to say, although I did really enjoy this series, I wasn't laughing out loud as much as I thought I would. It was a lot of moments of me going like, that's too real.
Yeah, I expected you guys to feel like a special certain way about this series. The more I read it, I was like, oh, there's Josh. There's classic Cody right there.
That's in the beginning, I was, but then you learn about his life, and it's like, I mean, you're doing great. So he talks about, anxiety and depression, which, it is like a thing like, even people who are doing well deal with that. But it's like, I mean, I don't care when someone who's successful is also sad.
Yeah, but how successful is he? He's the host of a children's TV show. We don't know, he still has a small apartment. Sure, he's on TV.
You got an apartment on your own. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I guess you're right. And
I mean, he's probably not doing that great compared to if you're you got money.
Well, it's overworking. They do touch on him having to go to work every day for long hours, and I don't know. I guess he expects more pay. I don't know. There's certain things where I'm like, okay, I get it.
I saw it more so than a work thing, and it is trying to be relatable to everybody, regardless of what your occupation might be. But I did see it as a letter to specifically creative people who feel like they might have sold out or had to do less, I don't know, things that might have been frowned down upon in their like creative circles, things that, like I said, to get a paycheck.
It reminded me of like Doodle Bops. Do you ever watch that show?
The Wiggles kind of a little bit too.
Like those were like, I could, they're like adults. They're doing this and they have to go on tour and like do all these other things. And it's like, how much do you think that they just don't like this? Like Riverdale. Riverdale, all the actors in Riverdale now, like, that they hate it. And they talk about hating it. And they talk about how stupid the script is. And yet they do it because they're getting paid to be teenagers in their 30s.
Yeah, and look, it's a fine line.
What are they, Melons?
Because I get what Cody's saying because, with the Riverdale cast specifically, like, I understand that you might want to be taking roles that speak to you and challenge you, but at the same time, you're making bank.
Yeah, they're making a lot. That's why they do it. I mean, that's why he's kind of like, okay. And he, like, the fact that, like, the silliness of it is just him being able to do these tapings and say these things to these kids and, like, no one bats an eye.
I'm under the impression that when it does the song lyrics, that's like that's when it's like a reality shift and he's not actually saying that.
I do feel like
this exists in a reality where he's saying that and no one has a problem with it. Because it feels to me like he's singing a happy song, but like, but what he would rather say is this, so it's saying that.
Well, his point in his like role in the whole show is to give advice, like his advice corner or whatever they call it. And then the two people that sing and do the songs, that's their thing. So he just gives advice with like the bunny and the bear. So I don't know if maybe he is saying this and the kids like play along with him. Like the kids are one of the funniest parts. Like at points I was like, okay, this is the same thing every show. He's just being negative and the kids just make up for that. I'm like, okay, this is they ask questions that are really funny and they're just like, oh, this guy's pathetic. Like they really bring it back for me. And the other character moments do too when they start going out of the show. Then I was like, okay, this is getting a little better.
Yeah, I mean, I did have like, I don't know if it was the week that I had, but I did have like a hard time.
The weed?
Sort of the week.
Oh, I think you said the weed that I had.
Yeah, I'm not going to reveal that I relapsed live on the podcast. I'm going to save that for a dark secret.
Yeah, that sounded like you.
Yeah.
It was true.
No, the week that I had, but it was like kind of hard to get through this because I didn't need to be reminded of the reality of life.
Yeah, right. Spoiler alert, right before we started this episode, I found out I have to work tomorrow on my day off. And I was very upset and still am. And this little tidbit really is the cherry on the top because this is me.
Yeah, this
my
is
life.
Maybe another
my life.
Take my life, please. This is one of those things where like he was talking about being single, like as you get on. I thought, like, that's like interesting. He's talking about that, but then like he is dating someone, and I'm like, oh, well, that's not relatable. I mean, what are you talking? Like he's
Wait, what?
I didn't see him dating anybody.
No, that was I think the other guy's sister. Yeah, and they live together.
They live together?
Yeah. I think they started just to live together. He has the dog.
Yeah, well, that's the other because there's two other characters. There's like a singer. They're both professional singers who've gone on or who have been in schools that are like the Juilliards of this story, I guess.
Yeah.
And one of them is dating a failed comedian or a struggling comedian.
Otherwise known as a comedian.
Yeah, otherwise known as just a comedian. Come on, the ice barn that they go to later on, and they actually show one of this guy's sets.
They show her like laughing extra hard, and it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that happen.
Yeah, Megan was laughing real hard.
What page are we on? That was so funny.
Okay, and yeah, a little bit of backstory. Comedy is weird and it's been weird, but me and Cody have done comedy for, I would say 5. You might want to subtract this past pandemic year, but if you want to include it for clout, 6 years. And that's how we know Megan's boyfriend. And so I do want to know, and you, and I do want to know what you felt while you were reading that part specifically.
Oh my God, I literally wrote me, OMFG. Not in like a...
Be real.
Damn. right off the
Be
bat.
real.
Okay, I was expecting this, but that was very funny.
Yeah, how did you feel watching the Joker? Because like that same thing happens in that one too.
No, it's different in the Joker. That was complete fiction. This felt
like
real.
oh, I've been here.
I've
before.
been here before. But honestly, I've never been in a room where like no one's been laughing.
Oh well, give it time.
That's. But I've never been like I have to laugh because no one's laughing. I've just been laughing because.
Maybe sometimes you don't even know, but you're just laughing because you're uncomfortable,
Josh, maybe.
I feel like Megan, you have a lot of things that you want to say.
No, I don't.
And you're holding back.
I don't.
Yeah, because for me, I mean, it did hit home, dude. The ice barn. I mean, he was performing in front of a crowd that was like, sprinkled with people who all, didn't really want to be there.
Yeah, one of the better mics in LA is the Ice House. Yeah. So it's like, it's very similar.
Very similar.
I was laughing just hard that like her description was, where is it? It's just about her relationship and it's very funny.
Yeah, I thought this series was, at times really well done. And then at other times, I felt like it was a little much. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but, for, I guess, compared to other comedy series, I do want to compare it to other self-contained shorter stories. Specifically Way of the House Husband jumps to mind just because that's a series that we all really loved. And I did laugh out loud a lot more during that read, but not so much during this. And I don't know. It did seem like a lot of the same. Whereas like with Way of the House Husband, it was a lot of the same too. But maybe the jokes were different.
They were different jokes. It seemed he would sing a song about how like, we can do backflips, but I'm sad.
Yeah,
and it wasn't. I didn't know this was a comedy.
Yeah, the punchline always is in this series. The punchline is always
dark.
Just him having this revelation over and over again that life is constant anxiety and that the world and everybody in it are just full of darkness. I mean, but it's that like him realizing that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, there could be no way for me to be able to read this series if it was just him over and over and over again. So when they did introduce the other characters, I felt a little bit more at ease. I was like, okay, now they're going to put their spin on it and they're not entirely cynical. Like, of course, like they're not happy, but they're not as cynical as he is. So I was like, okay, and even the rabbit and the bunny, like that's their job. Like they don't like it, but they still show up.
And they're all young, and they're all, I think, even the bear and the rabbit character are in their 20s. Maybe one of them, I think they're both in their 20s. Maybe one of them is 30. But it's also just about you're getting older, and this is what you're choosing to do. It's a silly show about teaching kids things. It's like imagine if Steve from Blue's Clues, had a TV show where he like a stage show, I guess.
Yeah.
And it did. Like I said, it did make me, certain chapters made me really feel.
Yeah,
things.
there is some wholesome moments. Like when it hit a wholesome moment, I forget where it was. I think it was when one of the kids said like, oh, my dad got work off and I'm going to come to your concert. And they kind of had like yeah, we are doing good things. Like this isn't all for nothing.
I didn't even read it that way though.
How'd you read it?
I read that as like, Jesus Christ, like because they had to do a live show and then they started complaining about like how much work the live shows are and then that their preparation for them, the rehearsals, and they were like, and we're having to work an extra day on the weekend. Like to me, I heard it as like, or read it as like the kid being super excited, but not knowing the extra work that they had to do and them being super bummed out about it.
I took it as like, he like was like kind of like taken aback, like, oh, like not like realizing that I forgot the live show. Like, oh yeah, like the kids like they enjoy what we do and they're like, yeah, we gotta
did you read it one of those two ways, Cody?
Do you remember?
Yeah.
I feel like you kind of like, and be honest, we want to be real, we want to speak truth. Did you kind of check out reading this series?
Yeah, it didn't really hold my attention.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything that you could show like I remember like, oh yeah, the girl like laughed harder than she would because her boyfriend's on stage. I'm like, yeah, that's real. Yeah. But like I didn't laugh, so it's like I would check the lines every now and then and be like, oh yeah, okay, he's sad. Oh, yeah. he works out a lot and people make fun of him for working out a lot.
See, that was a joke I didn't get.
Like, oh, all you do is work out. It's like, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And again, I was just reading it and I really thought I would like it more than I did. Some parts I was like, that was pretty funny. Like I didn't like ha ha ha. Maybe the 2 times I laughed out loud. But this is coming out with the anime. I don't know if you guys know. I think
it's coming
next
out
season.
Studio Blanc.
Yeah. So I feel like in a visual format, it might be a bit better.
yeah. I
But
mean,
reading it was just kind of like redundant at times where I was like, okay, he's saying the same thing about how life sucks and kids shouldn't, they're going to give up eventually and blah, blah. And like the other characters was like, oh, and then it kind of held my attention again when they were involved, but then it kind of just dropped out. And I don't know if you guys read only volume 1 because I read volume 1 and 2 because I had the
Omnibus, yeah.
Omni-Man bus.
I've never heard it called that, but...
And in the second volume, they actually go somewhere that's not the studio, and they have time together. 2 instances I can recall. So I was like, this is better. The studio really just keeps it one note.
Yeah, and that's what I really would have wanted more from the first volume. And look, I understand some of the things that it is trying to say, and sometimes saying well, like the whole idea of these coworkers and these rituals to go out for drinks after work, and for this one character to admit that he wishes he was funnier, and for what's his name again, Uramichi, to like make fun of him afterwards, and to have this like contentious relationship with some of your coworkers. I get all of that stuff, but what I would have really wanted is more of them outside of the studio, like maybe 50-50, because I did like a lot of the studio moments. I don't know if either of you have seen Sack Bunch Lunch with John Mulaney.
Yeah.
But it is a new-ish comedy special thing that was on Netflix, and it's just, John Mulaney had this idea, instead of doing another comedy special, that he wanted to make a comedy sketch sort of morning kids show. And, it does remind me of this a lot, because there are moments where it is sort of trying to break that wall and have an adult talk to a kid, like an adult would talk to an adult, about the hardships of life and them having to deal with big topics like death and stuff. But it did remind me of that a lot. And I guess that did it a little bit better for me, because this was mostly one note.
Way of the House Husband was different scenarios. So like, oh, here's him trying to cook dinner, here's him going grocery shopping, and here's him doing this. It'd be like if Way of the House Husband was just him trying to prepare for the big wine contest at his apartment. Yeah. And every episode he's like, I fuck up.
Or if we're getting like, Way of the House Husband, if he worked at a grocery store, and we're just seeing him have the same, he's the customers might be different, but even the kids in this are the same. But if he's like ringing people up and saying the same thing, and then talking to the cashier behind him and then saying the same thing, it's just like you're not really getting out of this studio setting. And there are again, there's a part with the director that I really liked, where the director, and I thought that was maybe the funniest part to me, where the director is telling him like, hey, you always come out of stage left the same way, like, can you try doing it a little bit differently, maybe do a backflip, that'd be cool. And then he has this like inner monologue about like why his life sucks, and this is not what he wanted to do, but then he's doing the backflip, and then the director goes like, nah, I liked it better the original way. And then he does it the original way, and then the director goes, you know what, maybe it wasn't enough backflips. And then he does more backflips, but then this time the director's on the phone. I did think that was funny. But again, like, few and far between with this series, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, the characters added definitely helped a little bit. And then the second volume, they do different stuff. So it's like, okay, it's kind of winning me back. But there was a couple of chapters there I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Same. Okay. And then it would kind of not be that. And then it'd be the same. Like, okay.
And they're short, self-contained stories, but they feel long.
Yeah.
Because it's just him talking.
This is not as smooth as a read as some other mangas are.
I mean,
there were reaction, worthy moments where I can see people taking those.
Yeah.
And, when he's like, "Oh, it happened again." Morning. I was like, "Oh,
yeah, that was really.
That's fun." And then people can put like #me on Monday. And then
yeah, a lot of memes out of this series.
Yeah, he's like, "You said you want to be funny. When have I ever said that? I heard you say it 100 times. God damn it."
Yeah, and you're right. Some of the other characters, I gotta say, even though they are refreshing when the story does start to feel like it's getting a little stale or repetitive, they still aren't, like, none of them really, like, and again, there are things I really like about the series, but none of them really like stand out. Even a lot of the interactions with the bunny character and the bear character, like, you know, I was sort of confused by their dynamic a lot of the time. Like, are they friends? Are they not friends? Because, you know, you open up with the first handful of chapters and they're talking shit behind each other's back. And then they are, you know, then planning a hangout at his apartment, which does happen in real life where people talk shit about you and then want to make plans with you.
I think it's more of like I didn't take it as like I'm actually it's just like they're always like kind of playfully talking shit about each other, and like he does things on the show that are fucked up, and then he's like, why are you doing this? And it's like, rightfully he would talk shit about you if you're doing all this fucked up shit to him. So it's like a back and forth, and then I like that wholesome moment where they're just like, oh, we're going to your place because we're all friends, and he doesn't even argue. He's just like, oh yeah, you can come in.
There was a nice moment where he like takes the guy to a cafe after a thing, and he's like, the guy's like, I was like, and I think the thing just specifically says like, yeah, he like treats them sometimes. It is like but I mean, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, that's like nice.
That's kind of like what I was just saying. That's like kind of like what me and Cody do when you're not.
Oh, you guys hang out without me?
The room, and we.
Oh, when I'm gone, you know, you talk shit about me.
What is that? Yes.
You know, I knew that too because I leave the mics running when I go. What?
Huh?
We were just talking about a small thing.
A little thing, huh?
Yeah.
I leave the mics running when I leave the room, so I know all the things that you guys say.
No, you don't. We check.
You don't know how microphones work.
We know how. Oh.
Don't you dare! Don't you dare! Anyway,
I like they're mischievous because the bear kind of like holds the rabbit back, and then you find out what they actually look like, and I was like, oh shit, a lot of good looking men in this series.
I'll give
That's
it credit.
what kept me going a little bit. Okay,
it didn't do the joke of like they take off the cute mascot costume, and then it's like an old grizzled war veteran, and he's like, time for me to take my
cigarette
smoke pack break, and oh, hey kid, time to get the costume. You know, I've seen that joke happen so many times that I was surprised that they were just like hot dudes.
I was like, I was like, I really wrote like, I was like, oh, I like how we haven't seen their faces yet. Just like it took a little bit, which is kind of like a build up, but again, I wrote it like I was expecting so much more. Like my expectations were much higher.
What do you think you were expecting going into it, or what do you think you wanted?
Just different
that you didn't get?
situational things. Like they do have different segments on the show, but they all kind of lead the same way. And especially with him, they all kind of go in one direction. Like there's not like the kids kind of add like a little bit to the dialogue where they're like, oh, you're 30 and my dad's 28, why don't you have a wife and kids? And he's like, well, and it's like those parts are funny,
and that was like relatable, which is what my boss has been asking me if I plan on having kids, which is like,
why aren't you a daddy?
He's
like
yeah.
Cody.
I'm like, well, first of all, I'm single. Second of all, I don't want a pet. Why would I want? Why would I want a kid?
I thought you were calling a kid a pet.
No, you're calling like Omni-Man. Like
you and Omni-Man today, huh?
I was thinking about him. We saw a guy today that was like Omni-Man when we got coffee and talked shit. I mean, just had a meeting before we started recording.
One of our famous coffee meetings.
Yeah, one of our famous rad coffee meetings where we talk about what we want to talk. But then
I wasn't there.
We can't.
That's kind of.
Oh, because you didn't come.
When
we invited you.
Sorry, I was busy making sure the ship sails.
The sips? Yeah, we were taking sips outside the coffee shop.
Fucking glue and
buying glue and construction, and
instead of hanging out with your buds, you were doing arts and crafts.
Yeah. Okay, enough. Enough.
I mean, the madness.
This is like there is like work stuff that happens, like people asking why you're single at an age. Like that's happened to me. The head of the HR at my work asked me if I'm single.
See, why? How are they allowed to do that?
It's a family-owned business.
Yeah, it's a family business. And look, let me say this too. I am the same age as Uramichi in this. And, I just started a new job. And, some things happening to me recently. And it's like really making me a little
Please talk about it.
And a little sad.
Are you going to talk about it?
And
are you going to be real?
I'll be real. It's becoming more of a thing now, whereas before... Okay, stop with
You're
that.
small.
My small issue that I'm
Issue,
having.
yeah,
issue. Yeah, well, yeah.
We were talking about the same thing.
At your rad coffee break.
No, usually
When I was
most
sailing the ship.
people have big issues, but you have like a smaller issue.
You
that you
always
need to talk
have
about.
small issues.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Your big issue is your small issue.
Oh yeah.
Well, at least it's big. Anyway,
Continue.
so it's never really been an issue, but for whatever reason, it's happening a lot at this new place of employment. And
Oh my God, what?
You know, where it's becoming sort of a reoccurring thing that people are asking me my age, and that's never really been a thing that's been brought up before. You know, I've been able to coast by, you know, claiming that I'm 23 or whatever.
You lied about your age?
And no, I didn't lie.
No, that is odd.
I just don't bring it up. And
Yeah.
and you know, people have been randomly just kind of stopping me and asking me, and I've noticed with two separate people the same reaction, and I'm not making this up. They're very friendly. You know, they'll come hang out, they'll talk to me. They're girls too. I'll put it out there. And yeah, they don't mind. They don't mind small issues.
Oh, that's probably what they just told you.
Yeah. But and so like twice it's happened where you know they're very friendly, you know, and then they'll go like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I just gotta ask you, how old are you? You know, you carry yourself so well. How old are you?" And I always say the same thing. I always say guess, and both times they say 23, 24. And I go, no, but thank you. You know, I'm actually 31. And both times, they walk away.
Oh, gosh.
And a little less talking, a little less hanging out, because now I'm just a weird 30-year-old man to them.
Oh,
Yeah.
Josh.
And I'm young. I just want to let everybody know that I got a youthful spirit
Bro.
and heart, okay?
That's
Yeah.
How old are they though?
I think one of them is like 20 and the other one is like 22.
Okay, then I thought they were like, okay, they're not minors.
Well, they're not minors.
If I was like 17 and you're like, how old are you? Oh, I'm 31. I might be like, oh, okay, maybe I won't talk to you again. But if they're, that's like my age.
Yeah, I know. And I just want to tell them, you know, I have youthful friends, you know, and I harness their life force.
That is true. I'm
Wow,
normally very upbeat
they
and vibrant.
walk away.
Yes, you are. You know, twice they've literally one person walked away mid-conversation and was like, oh, I was just wondering, walked away. You know, isn't that weird?
That's not
That's
weird.
kind
That
of-
sucks.
Yeah, that does suck.
It does suck. But my point is, look,
because they were checking you out. Well, I mean, the upside of that
No,
is they were.
yeah, it was probably like they're like, oh, a prospect.
you know, I'd like to think so.
Which, hey, did you? No.
What?
But the upside of that is like, you know, restaurant compared to working at a warehouse means like people, even at my other job, people, guys and girls, managers, coworkers, people just visiting their friends at work would be like, hey, Cody, do you have a girlfriend? They'd be like, no. They'd be like, oh. And I was like, why are you asking? I was just curious. You seem nice. I'm like, oh. I've never asked anyone that in my life, but like they'll always ask me out of curiosity.
Of course. Why is it weird to you that people want to know if you're like dating?
The head of HR?
Okay, well, you know, he's a weirdo. Yeah, and
Is that my favorite
we can
guy?
go into that. Yeah, we can go into that on a different episode.
My favorite guy.
But I related to him because look, he is an older gentleman, and he is in a, you know,
And he looks very youthful.
Yeah, but I'm sure if you
and he works with children.
The difficulty is he does work out though.
if you look like this, they might not have walked away, Josh.
What?
Damn.
What?
A 2D character, you could never do this.
Yeah, I don't think anyone. If they saw
That's
a 2D
what I meant.
character in our 3-dimensional plane, they would probably be interested.
Yeah.
they would
They'd
probably
be
not
like,
care
"Where
about
did you
age."
come from? How old are you?"
Yeah. See, you know, and so there are things that really
Bro,
didn't hit me.
that's
You know,
just
there are things that didn't hit
depressing
me.
as
You know,
fuck.
and I've been kind of feeling a little bit like, damn. You know, I mean, I do feel young, and I do feel, you know.
Don't let them put you down, okay?
Yeah, and thank you.
Do they have a podcast?
Do they have a podcast?
Oh
they
wait,
do
no,
each
I'm 31,
week?
but I have a podcast. And they come running back.
And they're like, you would. Yeah. I just got to say, look, again.
Yeah, that's not off from the reaction.
I got to unpack this with you guys. I got to really get to the bottom of it because, like, you know, him being a 31-year-old man, and look, you know, I know Cody's relationship with comedy might be changing a little bit, but it is something that I still enjoy doing and would like to continue doing now that things are opening back up. And so I do get the creative side of feeling like you might have to sell out or sacrifice or maybe surround yourself with people who are doing that. And so I because of the age thing, because of the unfulfilled, you know, side of creativity, going back to a place, you know, where other people are maybe not taking it in your mind as seriously as you are. Like there were a lot of themes and a lot of lines of dialogue that really hit me. But no matter how hard they hit, it wasn't enough for me to like need to read the next chapter.
Yeah.
It was a lot of things that were like, yeah, I can relate to that.
Exactly.
All right, so that was chapter 1. And, yeah, I do feel like that sometimes. Chapter 3. Oh, I mean, that's a nice apartment. Chapter 4. I mean, people constantly being like, what, all you do is work out all day? And it's like, I mean, that's a legitimate thing that you can do to spend your time. That's healthy. I mean.
Oh, so you related way more, I think.
Well, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you caught him. Busted.
I don't work out, but like lifting weights. I mean, I look like I don't work out. I work out for like mental health, not for like a hobby.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing too. I feel like maybe this is a situation of mental health, because this job that he has is driving him insane, and it's like heightening his anxiety and depression. But also, and I get being in a position where you're having to pay rent or whatever. There even is a chapter in, I think, volume 2 called "Paying Rent."
The bunny can't pay rent. He's late, and he still owes the bear money from last time. And then he asks the other singer, main character, he's like, "Can I borrow money?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "What?"
Yeah, but see, that's a great example.
Where it's like, okay,
that's a great example. Yeah, of just like the things. I didn't even read that chapter because it's in volume 2.
Oh,
but
fuck.
And
this
you just Tokyo
a classic mechanism right there.
You just Tokyo Revenged us right now. But look,
you can't help yourself.
I can't help myself.
But even reading that title, I thought, man, the places they're going to be able to go. Is he going to want to? Is he going to?
Is he going to have to sell things that he likes so he can make rent? Is he going to literally have to give up some of his more like childish hobbies for money to pay rent?
Is he going to finally, muster up the courage to have his own creative freedom and leave his job? But then he's going to realize that he has rent due in a week.
Is he going to make a sacrifice of getting a cheaper place to rent, and then but getting a job that pays less, and feeling that that way he'll have more free and creative time? Oh, he just asks his friend for money and he says yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like
bummer. I wish the negatives outweighed the positives in the story, not in general too, because it's negative. I hate my life. Blah blah. That can only be funny for so long. You need to have positives to outweigh it, and have the comedy aspect be super high in order to do that. Sure, they do that with facial expressions, and the writing is not terrible. It's just very redundant when it comes to the negative stuff.
It's like BoJack Horseman never made a connection with me.
Oh,
I know that's very popular, but it was always just like, oh man, I'm actually pretty sad. I'd be like, okay. But I'm a horse. Oh, all right. I mean,
the first season is a lot of that. The second season, it's much more joke heavy. At the end of every season, it gets really dark, and it's just this is okay. It's super funny, haha, shenanigans, blah blah. And then after every season, it comes back to BoJack and dealing with his real life shit. And the next season, it's just haha, shenanigans, and it's just a cycle. And it's so good. We're not here to talk about BoJack, but it's. Yeah.
But I do think there's a similarity, because you're taking these, I mean, at least with, the parallel, I guess, would be a washed up sort of actor. Celebrity having to deal with, I guess, Hollywood or selling out, or the difference between being on TV or being, more creatively independent and broke.
Yeah.
It's, I saw a commercial for Jim Carrey was doing a show where he's playing a Mr. Rogers type character.
I saw, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a little twisted. And I saw the commercial and I was like, that's all I need to see. I just saw the entire show right now.
I watched the first episode of that just out of, I guess, first of all, I love Jim Carrey. Huge Jim Carrey fan. Grew up with The Mask. The Mask was my favorite movie of all time.
That's it?
I mean, I then watched every other movie, but The Mask was the one.
Not Ace Ventura?
No, Ace Ventura was after for me.
Not Peggy Sue Got Married? No, I'm just kidding. You guys don't know. He's a cameo in that.
Dumb and Dumber?
Dumb and Dumber, for
His
sure.
Cameo in Mystery Men?
I've seen all of anything Jim Carrey's ever been in. I've seen it, but The Mask is what started it.
Oh.
What movie was
The
that
Grinch?
From? Of course.
Oh, how could you forget?
No,
The
I've
Grinch
seen,
is the best
no,
work
I've
of all
seen
time.
and love.
Probably his best performance.
No, it probably is, I swear.
I feel like I'm on the hot seat right now.
We're just talking to you.
Oh my god, The Grinch. Oh my god.
Yeah, but I watched that because I love Jim Carrey, and to me, it did seem like this like weird sort of. And I get like I get the idea behind it. The idea is the same that it is here. Like, what if all of these icons, these children's TV hosts, what are they really like? They're all human. They all have an adult side to them, and they're all struggling with things.
We found that hard.
You're talking to 3 people who are in the workforce who are struggling with a lot of these things in here. We're not saying that we're like above these things or we don't get these things. Like we on different levels all suffer from like anxiety and depression in one form of another, but it's not like that wasn't the reason we were connecting with it,
Yeah, that's the thing is this is relatable.
Yeah, I connected with the female character entirely because she went to college for theater and singing, and I easily could have done that, but I didn't like the people. And I just didn't want to be like on Broadway necessarily, because that was the only avenue that I found that I could find myself doing that thing, like musical theater. Like, how are you else going to on a cruise? Like, I was just like, okay, I don't want to do this, don't want to do this, don't want to do this, and the people do not make it fun, so I'm just not going to go that route and do my own thing. So seeing her, and look at me now.
And now you got a pair of barriers on your head.
Yeah, I could have never imagined. If you asked me freshman year, you'd have been like, I'm going to be on Broadway. Fucking dumb bitch.
You never would have guessed the magic. And here's the thing. We had a version of this before this episode started, which Megan...
Yeah, I was very
Megan had
sad.
a very real adult issue in life, and then sat down and put bear ears on. And then
hey kids, are you ready to play?
When we start, she's already doing a funny, energetic voice, so it's just like, not only can we relate to this, me and Megan are both wearing animal ears right now. This is you got a polo, I think, for this episode.
For this episode.
I'm in a blue polo.
Okay.
Too true.
Right. That's why I couldn't go to Rad Coffee, because I was buying blue polos.
Really?
Yeah. And construction paper and glue.
Oh, well, I mean, we could have gone with that. That's not the point. Behind you have a bunch of figurines. Yeah. We have a talking cube, and it's like we can relate to this so much so that the fact that we don't really connect with it shows how maybe shallow the writing is.
It got me a couple of times where I was like, that could have been so much funnier. I don't understand why it wasn't as funny. It just felt so off because there's points where I'm like, oh, that is pretty good. And then he just completely disregarded that with another, I'm sad about my life and I hate my life and everything's meaningless and I don't care about anything and you guys suck and it's just ugh.
It's sort of I mean, if you want to explore that, I would have been interested in, because the few parts where I do see him outside, I'm like, oh, you know what, because a thing that I thought they were going to explore is him being like, oh, I don't have any hobbies, and that was the thing that was explored in Mob Psycho. And here's the thing, Mob Psycho, not only do you get a very personal, relatable story about a guy trying to find his place in the world and what he wants to do, he also has psychic powers, and all the characters are fun and interesting, and I mean, in this, he's like, oh, all I have as a hobby is working out. It's like, well, that's way better than, first of all, not having a hobby at all. And then, that's a pretty socially acceptable hobby.
Yeah, and better than most people are doing.
And and then it's why do you, why did you choose working out as, your outlet?
Yeah.
And because I have my outlet, because I have to recharge a meter.
Please.
I'm bordering on 3 days a week now, but sometimes I only need to get one in there. Those are good weeks.
Yeah. And look, I do want to mention the art too, and say that the art is beautiful.
The art is amazing, and the mangaka's name, what is it? I have it here. Gaku Kuze, and I actually read his other work called Bird Fandom, and it's about a girl who moves out of her country, I think Japan or something, to this country that's has bird people, and they're human beings, but then they grow wings and can detach them back into their bodies, and it was actually pretty entertaining.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, this. It was the same type of art, not as, I don't think, detailed, maybe because I was reading it online, but honestly, I was having a good time reading it, and I was like, wow, this is a lot more palatable, and I understand the characters, and this not better, but a little bit
Yeah. Anything that's been like, oh, it's childish but dark has never managed to make a connection with me.
It just needs to have a balance.
That Super Happy Friends show where it's like, oh, it's like cartoon animals, but there's
Treehouse Friends.
Treehouse Friends. I'm like,
no, Happy Treehouse.
Happy
Friends?
Treehouse
Happy
Friends.
Tree Friends.
Happy Tree Friends.
I saw it and was like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be crazy if like, but like, I mean, I don't get anything from that. And then there's like the YouTube one.
When did you watch it?
Where it's like a mop, where it's like they use Muppets, and it was like,
try not to.
Don't hug me, I'm scared.
Don't hug me, I'm scared.
Oh,
I like that.
Someone showed me like a lot of those episodes, and I was just like, yeah. And they're like, oh, you can relate to this. I'm like, sure. But, I mean, I do, but I don't like
I
this.
wouldn't say relate. I would just think it's a cool visual thing
that's the thing. Like, the charm of it has never hit me.
It's almost its own category at this point where, people are going to parody or satire, Sesame Street.
Yeah.
But it's like...
it's like Block Q. It's like a musical where there's like puppets.
I mean, you even go back to the Jenna... What is it? Jenna McCarthy or Jenny McCarthy?
Oh, the Funhouse
the
murders?
The movie where there are Muppet-type characters that are cops.
And I remember I saw that trailer in the theater, and everyone was busting up laughing. And then then like I was laughing. I thought it was hilarious, the trailer, and then the movie came out. I was like, I don't care. I got what and then I saw reviews, and they weren't.
And I get, you can look at it and say like, oh, the juxtaposition of
never lands for me.
Back to the Jim Carrey thing of like him, making children smile, meanwhile going back, and sitting in his depression alone in his apartment and having to deal with divorce while being this like inspirational Mr. Rogers type character. And it's like, I on one hand, on paper, I get that, but...
And then the other issue is, well, the Mr. Rogers character you're basing this on didn't go through that.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Rogers, the little I do know about him, actually, he seemed like a pretty great guy.
That's the thing, is it's like, what if he was dark and twisted? And it's like, well, he wasn't.
He seemed like he pretty well adjusted.
Yeah, so it's like...
Like, prime example, like the whole ball... situation when they're like the germs and they're like, oh, throw a ball at him, like when he hits him in the face and then he tells the buddies like, hit him as hard as you can, and he just looks at him like those, like just little moments, and I'm like, oh, and then he just turns the next page and I'm like, oh, like it just goes.
Yeah, and I do always feel the need to, like, when we do talk about a series like this, like I do feel the need to say, for me personally, I did enjoy this series. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
But there were parts of it that I really enjoyed. And I would say that, like, it is, the Mama Pun Pun character.
Yeah, totally.
There is.
I was thinking that and the Berserk egg.
Oh, a little bit of a Bailiff face.
Yeah.
It's so funny. He talks about it, he draws it, and they're like, oh, here, your dream that you keep having, we're going to put this in the show now. And he's just like, maybe my nightmare.
He's like, you don't own that.
Yeah.
But I do feel the need to say that, like, there were parts of this that I connected with, and with a series with self-contained, one-off stories, you're always going to run the risk of having certain ones that really hit and ones that don't. It's the same thing with sketch shows. Like if you watch a sketch show with 10 sketches in it, like 3 are probably going to be funny. And I think that, that's just part of, making a story this way. There are exceptions, like Way the House Husband. I would say 9 out of 10 of those were really good for me. And made me laugh. But, I do just want to say I did like it, and I would recommend it to certain people. I just wouldn't go out of my way to tell someone that they have to read
Well,
this.
let me ask you a quick query.
Okay.
Oh.
How
old are you?
How old are you?
Would you recommend this to?
I would recommend, like, maybe if you were a fan of, because I look at this and I see... Maybe if you're a fan of, like, I don't know why I thought of, like, Invader Zim, kind of.
No, do not compare this to Vader Zim.
No, and I'm not comparing it, but I'm saying, like, just with the idea, but Invader Zim is, like, making fun of, I think, like, corporate sort of capitalism sometimes. Like, I just think of, like, the pig mascot, and he's, like, that character who's, like, selling pizza, and then it cuts to him, and he's just, like, huge and fat and greasy on this, like, couch, and he's this, like, monster, looking guy.
It's really gross.
And I just think, like, I remember being in high school and reading, like, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and Squee and Invader Zim and reading these things that were, like, on the surface. With Squee specifically, it's like, oh, we want to sell this to seem like it's this cute kind of character, but it's really dark, and it's about depression, and it's about anxiety, and it's about loneliness. So I feel like it's similar in that way.
And
only that way.
Here's where a story that also deals with that besides Mob Psycho is Chainsaw Man, and it manages to do a lot of things while also, and I feel like very in a good, covering all those aspects. A lot of series, cover these because a lot of like writers deal with this, so they always like put that into their work. My favorite book, Heroes Die, deals with this too. It's just that's not the end of it. There's always like a and then there's like a story there.
No, exactly. This is just like a slice of life, him doing it, comedy, jaded comedy, but it's just, I wish they could have just meshed the first and second volume a little bit more, because the second volume does, like I said, they do more stuff and it's way more interesting and more funny. But it just kind of dragged on in the first couple chapters. And
I see this on Instagram sometimes where people will, it's like, oh, it's just guys' apartments. It's just a chair in front of a plasma screen TV, and like, oh, men are okay with living like this. But if you look at the apartment, it has like a skylight view next to a beach, and it's like you would have to be making so much money to afford that apartment.
But you can have money, Cody, and not be happy.
But there you go, and it's just like you could also be very poor and not live next to the beach and not be happy.
Well,
so
that's
it's like,
the
I
thing,
don't.
too.
That's
it's like it could be worse.
That's the whole message, I think, too.
The thing where it's like, well, look, that guy who lives on the beach, he's also not happy. I'm like, I don't care. He doesn't have to worry about rent. He doesn't have to worry about like paying medical bills.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh yeah, I am aware that they can deal with that, and like that's like a universal human condition. But like, if you like, if like food isn't a concern in your daily life, I mean, I don't see why I should care about this story more when there's stories about like people struggling while dealing with these issues.
Yeah, I was thinking about that recently, and I will say that I can't really articulate it well because I didn't, it was just a thought I had and didn't say out loud. But I have had sort of that struggle, that like I have felt internally as if like people say that when we start to question certain things or when we start to push back against certain things, it comes from a place of privilege because we have, when we're just worried about survival, we're not worried about, gender neutral bathrooms. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with gender neutral bathrooms, but I mean like the fact that there's so many people who care about like a man should have his bathroom and a woman should have their bathroom. Like the fact that people care at all, I think some people say is a sign of like, it means that we're not worried about, finding our next meal. You know what I mean? And so I do struggle like creatively, like, am I valid in having these sort of feelings about like achieving things when maybe somebody is starving down the street from me?
Yeah, here's for a year I was just eating potatoes and eggs, and my dad saw me like eating like potatoes and like cooking them, and he said, "Why do you cook them?" I just eat them. I would just eat them raw when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, and then I would have friends who were like, "Yeah, my parents bought me a car, but it's not the one I like," and it's just like, look, I'm sure that sucks for you.
Yeah. It's hard,
but I don't care.
Yeah, it's hard, but I've been told, and not to get too deep or vulnerable, but I have been told that, and I agree that everybody's problems, it affects them the same way it affects, like you and your potato situation and someone's car situation might affect them the same way it affects you. Just because it's not happening to you and just because that would be amazing for you, it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt them as much as like, you struggling for food would. I mean, although, because like you can't, it's such a complicated thing to compare your problems to somebody else's problems, right? And it starts getting muddy when you do that.
It's just like, yeah, that sucks, but like, I'm not gonna read a story about your struggles,
right? And I'm not
because how does that doesn't help me? Like, if you write then a story about how like I asked for this type of car, but my parents just gave me their old car, and it's because they never cared, and it's just like, if I read that, I'm just gonna be like, well, I would like to have been given a car.
No, and I agree, and I think that's a lot of the reason. And the reason I said I don't want to get too deep is because and I'll just keep it brief, is that, my dad constantly, he was his family was from Mexico, and they shared him and his 10 siblings at the time shared one room. And so anytime, me and my brothers or sister would complain about anything, it was constantly like, well, at least you have your own, bed. At least you have a bed. You don't have to sleep on the floor, yada, yada, yada. So what that like psychologically did to me was cause me to create a lot of my own problems so that I would feel validated in saying that my life was difficult, because I just wanted him to see me as like an equal in a lot of ways. And so like I put myself through a lot just so that when he would say like, well, you've never been through that, I could say like, I have been through that, and it takes, but that's not a mature reaction to that. I mean, like for me to do that is not a mature reaction to that or healthy reaction.
Yeah, it's like in the real world, I don't have an issue with it. Because obviously, like, my life is better than a lot of people's, and a lot of people's lives are better than mine. Like, that's, like, the whole thing. But, like, I don't want to see a story about someone whose life is better than mine, but they're, like, sad about it.
Yeah.
I don't get anything from that on an entertainment level.
It just...
On an empathic level, I can relate to anyone, like, having issues with anything in like, a real conversation. But I'm not going to then, like... What do I get from reading a manga about, like... But what if they were sad also?
What I wanted was... the dark jokes to be cut in half, to see more semi-wholesome moments with him dealing with other people in his life, not just the people in his work.
Yeah.
Because he definitely has to do that. Going to the store, like he kind of alludes, I have to go to the store later. Like, I want to see him in the store. Why would you not include that? Don't include another segment about him just talking about how shitty his life is. Yeah. Show how shitty he thinks his life is outside of his work life, because that's all he does.
And I don't want to cut you off, but I don't want to forget either. We do get little peeks of that.
Peaks,
and it's like, I want a little more. It's like
never managed to get over this wall for me to like connect.
Because there are times where he's like smoking a cigarette before he has to go into work or going to the store, and it is interesting. He's in a beanie, and you could tell he's like having to deal with a normal social situation, and he's not really having it, and there seems to be more there. We're just scratching the surface, and then it's back to the studio.
Yeah, Yeah, I wish we could have seen more of that side of him. Maybe like his family dynamic, or someone like, his other friends. Like, he really doesn't have that besides his work, which I kind of get. That's the point they're trying to make. They're trying to focus it all on, this is his life, this is his work. He has nothing else but this. That's why he complains to them and only about this, because that's all he knows. And I get that. It's just, it could have been way more funny segments on the show, less of him complaining to the kids, and maybe it turning into something like, hey, you can't say that in front of kids, instead of it just being like, okay, he's saying it.
That's why I was unclear on the reality of this. I just assumed this is like a warped this is like what is in his head versus, and then they're just not showing what he's actually saying.
Yeah, I mean, controversial statement here, saying this here, but I do think that this might be funnier in an anime, just because they will be able to
sound effects.
They'll be able to lean into the kids
music,
show thing,
silence,
and it'll feel like a kid show
noises,
because we're watching a show.
Slide whistle,
yes, a lot of slide whistle.
That's why I'm excited. And I also saw, I couldn't find it online, but it was like a live action version of this, like a J drama or like a J comedy or whatever. And I couldn't find it online. I couldn't find to watch it, but it looked pretty funny. And it was like, I don't know if this happens later on, but there was another character that I didn't know anything about, and I don't know if it was it's hard to explain, but I was like, that might be cool in like a real life thing if it,
Yeah.
If it was about him like trying to like deal with it, it would have connected.
Instead of constantly accepting and just sort of surrendering to this monotony.
That's the whole issue, too.
Because it's like, Mob Psycho is the whole thing about him trying to like deal with and improve his life, and you can keep going in the series. There's never really a clear like victory. It's just gradual improvements as he goes on.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of Volume 2, it is interesting to see like what that avenue opens. I'm not gonna like spoil it. Okay, you guys, calm down. But I will say that
Be careful.
Sorry, it might get better. It might get better, and maybe that was the intention of the mangaka to put volume 1 and 2 in the same volume.
And I
because
do want to say that it was originally, I think, released as a web series, which does contextualize a lot of why these are shorter, self-contained stories. Because as a webcomic, I do think that would be more interesting, and it would make sense if, like, okay, this one didn't hit as hard as the last one, and to put them both, volumes 1 and 2, into one sort of omnibus or omni-man bus, which is just a manga with a mustache on it. It does make sense that it would include more, you know.
Yeah. I'm just showing Cody the end of volume 2 because he wanted to see it.
But I do think, as a web comic, I think this would be more enjoyable or digestible. And I hate saying things this way because it makes it seem like I didn't get anything out of this, and I really did get a lot out of it. I do think it's going to read a lot better as an anime.
Oh,
and
for
I
sure.
do think it's something that truth time. I got to say that I'm not going to maybe continue reading it, but I will watch at least the first episode to see how they handle the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see this being something I revisit like a couple chapters at a time, but it's definitely not something I don't think that I would have to get every volume of and read every chapter of. To wrap things up, do you guys have any final thoughts on the series? I know we've kind of talked and said.
I mean,
I'll probably never check this out.
I know.
I'm not gonna watch the anime. I'll probably watch Jujutsu Kaisen.
Whoa.
Over and
from Cody, that's a big deal.
Before I'll definitely watch that before I would watch the anime of this.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, I mean, I guess I should keep giving that show a try. Because a lot of people keep telling me it gets better. So, like, Megan, to be clear.
Hunter.
I spent 2 weeks watching that show. And I kept getting told, just keep watching it. Oh, we got a case of the coughs.
You got something in your throat?
Yeah, lies. Wait, no, not lies. I mean,
I think
truth.
Truth.
I gotta agree with Cody at least that, like, while I did say I would watch the first episode, I can't really see myself continuing to watch it, but I do want to know a little bit more. And my final thoughts, and then Cody said what he had to say, and then we'll get to Megan's final thoughts since she was the one who found this. I do think that there are
Fuck
things.
Me, right?
No,
Jesus
there are
Christ.
things that there are definitely things to take away from this. It's a lot of me reacting like this, like going, ouch, just because of how truthful it felt at times. And I liked it, and some passages of dialogue were really insightful and cool, and it was really saying something. But ultimately, and I said it earlier in the episode, it was just too few and far between of those moments for me. Not enough laughs, and not that it needs to be funny constantly either, but yeah.
To be clear, because I'm getting a sense for when things can be miscommunicated here. When I said, like, I wouldn't want to watch a show about, like, the person who lives on the beach, that is not to be an analogy for how I feel about this story.
Right.
That was just mostly about that person who, like, is like, oh, look how badly they live when they live on the beach. That was a separate thought. Not saying that this series is the equivalent of that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I'm going through my mind. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And I'm sure that won't matter.
Yeah, I'm sure whoever's commenting already commented, and they're not going to even make it this far.
So but it's on record.
Yeah.
To be clear, those were separate thoughts, just with no segue in between.
Right.
And I just want to be clear, you guys, for Cody's sake. No, I'm just kidding. I do want to reiterate, like, there were funny parts in the story. Like, I wasn't completely, like, taken out. I mean, sometimes I was, just because of the, like, sheer amount of times him being negative were with the kids, and it just felt really repetitive to me. But there was moments where I genuinely thought it was pretty funny, and then when I saw those moments, I got excited for the anime because I know those would hit way better than in the manga. But I know that people love this series. We've been recommended it before. I see it all the time, oh my god, this is one of my favorite mangas and blah blah. And maybe it's like for the people that really do like cynical like humor, constant cynical humor, but like for me, when I'm reading a manga, like I don't want it to be like just feel negative the whole time and then have a joke here, okay, negative the whole time, have a joke here. Like I want to read it to I mean, slice of life is my favorite genre, but when it's done correctly, like Nichijou is a prime example of Nichijou. It's not necessarily set in like total reality, but it is girls going to school, and it's absolutely hilarious. And it's just them going to school and them getting into situations that are there's playing a game, and the facial expressions and the writing. It's all so funny. And this just didn't do that for me, which I thought it was going to based off the synopsis and like what I read so far. But then it just fell flat, which is kind of unfortunate. But I didn't think it was awful. I didn't think it was the best. But I'm very excited to see the anime. And hopefully, if they do it right, it'll be better than the source material just by a bit.
So I'll say this. I'll
Like,
say check it out for yourself. Oh my God, what happened to my camera?
It's
Well,
okay.
you can move the curtain.
Yeah, Megan, can you move the curtain for me?
I always feel bad when people recommend something and I just don't like it at all. One, I don't like slice of life in general. So this could be the best slice of life in the world. I wouldn't.
I'm the slice
I
of
wouldn't
life.
like it in the sense that like I don't connect. I don't really get anything from slice of life stories. Not that they're like inherently bad. It's just it doesn't do anything for me. Two, if enough people get mad, I will watch the anime.
Okay, that's if enough people get mad.
Just because of like if people are like, oh, you didn't get it.
I mean, we got it.
I'll give it a second shot. Like how I watched the anime of Jujutsu because people are like, no, it is really good. I'm like, all right, maybe if I see it in motion, I'll like it more. I watched all of Hunter x Hunter. Well, not all of it.
Not all.
I got to the dodgeball story, which is
don't lie and
deep
say that you
into
did.
the story.
Not very
Give
deep
me
at all.
credit for getting that far when I didn't like it after the first episode.
I'll give
Very
you
not
credit.
far.
I give you credit, but I think here's what I'll say. I think that if anything we've talked about has been interesting to you, and if this is a topic or a genre that you find interesting, because again, while Cody might have not been as into it as me and Megan were, and maybe Megan was into it a little bit more than I was, we all at least found a little something in it. And, I can at least speak for myself and say that there were parts of it that I really enjoyed. And I think if you found anything we said interesting, you should check it out. It's short. Read a couple of the chapters. Read a couple of the short stories. If it's connecting with you, then you're going to love everything it has to offer because it's a lot of the same. And that's not necessarily a bad thing either. But if you read a few of those short stories and they don't connect with you, then it's probably not for you. And it's as simple as that. And I think that it has something to offer to people. And it's just a matter of if you're one of those people or not. And I think that's really what it boils down to when it comes to life lessons.
Life lessons with Uramichi Oniisan.
And let's start the Wonder Circle.
That's going to do it for our review/discussion of life lessons with Uramichi Oniisan. Now it's on to everybody's favorite section. The real reason everybody listens is the Wonder's Circle, where we read comments that you've left on some of our previous videos, and Volume 1-chan goes through them. She'll find a couple, read them to us, and we will respond. If you want us or Volume 1-chan to read one of your comments, then comment on this video or any of our previous videos. But Volume 1-chan, why don't you kick us off with the first comment, please?
This one comes from Apollo Man. Any more Tokyo Revengers soon?
I would love that.
Oh my God, you have no idea. So we started watching the anime all together after we record the episodes, and it has become a ritual of ours. And I don't watch them before we watch them
Not
together.
anymore, and
Not
allegedly
anymore.
you don't, but
It
sometimes
happens.
you
Even
forget.
though
And then you
sometimes
realize
Okay,
you
I've
do.
read in the manga a lot.
She'll really
Wait.
stress that she didn't watch it and then be like, no, I watched.
Okay, it was once.
You swore to us, I haven't watched it. And then you were like, wait for this part coming up. It's pretty freaking sick. In the anime, specifically, they cut a lot of stuff out. And I'm like, oh, Megan, how would you know that? Miss, I haven't watched it.
And when you get caught, you don't go like, you go, oh.
yeah. Yes.
So it's very noticeable when you lie.
No. Oh. No, seriously though, it's so much fun, and we do really. I've read a lot of the manga, maybe like chapter 50 or something, and it's just getting better. And even like we're watching the anime, and they're just like, he's got to do something. What's gonna happen?
Yeah,
I'm like,
the anime is starting to lose me.
And it's just because
I loved
Takamichi, I think, is the main character's name, right?
Takamichi.
He is, at first, I'm all for as people say, a crybaby protagonist, as long as they grow and as long as they change And
there was a definite.
He's taking a long time.
There
to
was
get
a
there.
definite mark where it's like, and here we go, because multiple times in a row he will be like, and now it is time for character development, and I'm like, I'm back on board, buddy. Like you had such a good first impression that I'm here for it, and then he like trips and falls and he cries again. He's like, I'm useless, and I'm like, second wind. Here we go, and then it just keeps happening, and I'm like, all right, that's the episode's over now.
And,
Okay.
it's starting to be... Look, I understand that from an animation standpoint, there are a lot of characters in these big brawls and stuff. But sometimes, man, the shortcuts that they're taking... And anime is like, it's a big thing in anime that they have to be creative with their budget and their animations to save money. And a lot of them do it very well. But sometimes, there was a shot in the last episode of Tokyo Revengers where the camera is on a frozen crowd of gang members and they're not moving for 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's like, that's fine for like a shot. You can do stuff with that.
Yeah.
But it
lingered.
It lingers on it, and every now and then it'll just cut to like a lamppost, and I'm like, what was that about?
Yeah. And I get it. I can usually... I usually don't mind it at all, actually, because it'll usually be cut between... They'll be saving money so that they can do a really cool scene later.
But it's like, that was the cool scene, because now we're going to go back to him being like, I can't do anything. And I'm like, you just had this conversation with yourself. I have seen this 4 times in 2 episodes.
I'm excited for you guys to watch the next episode, because I really do think that's where it pops off and we get
Don't say it.
something
You
else.
caught yourself.
Yeah.
I'm literally not... I was going to say it, but then you're like, oh, that's good. I'm like, it literally doesn't. I just know you guys would give me shit, so I won't say it.
It wouldn't be a spoiler if you told us story details that happened in the
It's not a story detail. It's just another thing that keeps happening that everyone knows about.
Look, I still love the series, and I think my vote is that, in between Berserk arcs, we're obviously going to do some other volume dones or some other bonus videos. I think we should do a part 2 Tokyo Revengers.
I would say that the manga is probably better than the anime as of right now. Of course, I love seeing Mikey and Draken and all of them animated, and I love seeing Hina and all the characters animated, the voices, everything is spot on. But the manga really does. It was so easy to read. I was like, I couldn't stop reading because it was so fluid, and it was just like way more. You don't have to wait for the next episode, because you get, like we said, a 3-minute recap every fucking episode. We get the intro every episode. We get the ED every episode. That is what, already 9 minutes?
Very short episodes where I'm like, all right, well, you're dragging on this character development a lot. Me and Josh were both like, and now character development should be happening.
We're at episode 8.
We should be feeling it by now. Yeah. It had I loved the first volume. I was loving the anime the first few episodes. But yeah, like, especially when, like, if they're going to have a 20-second shot of no one moving, it's like, I might as well be reading the manga.
Exactly. And I loved the manga when we read it. I think we all just were amazed at how much we loved it.
Yeah. I recommended it to like everyone I knew.
We'll do a second part for sure, because
second part for sure.
I want you guys to take it in like that, because I think even if we did do a second part, we could split it up where it's even further than what is on the anime right now, and it gets way better in my personal opinion. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. So comment Tokyo Revengers Volume done, and we're probably going to do it anyway, but just comment.
You can feel like you're a part of it.
Yeah, and you will be.
You will be.
Yeah. Volume 1, Chan, can you read us another comment, please?
This one comes from Damian Patterson. I won't waste any more of your time with the long-windedness except to respectfully ask Cody one question. If you thought the battles in Hunter x Hunter were too easy, what's a manga with battles you thought were satisfyingly hard?
Damien came back with a rebuttal.
Yeah, and I do have to say, Damien is a very polite, very nice guy.
Yeah.
And to Damien, he did say in his comment, like, I hope I didn't come across like an asshole or a dick. And you did not.
No.
To show you how great this is like, I was like, I don't want to come across as an asshole or dick, so I want like all of us to be able to talk about it. So he was like, oh, did I come across? So this is a very civil conversation. This is no longer about like,
is anybody being a dick or not?
No.
It's just a conversation. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, which is weird that I'm like just talking to someone.
And he made the point, like, too, like, it is like what we were saying, like, when you love something so much, you want to show someone like what they might not see and maybe change their mind, not necessarily meaning that your opinion's wrong or my opinion's right. It's just like I like it and I want you to enjoy it too as a friend.
And he reiterated all that, and I think he gets it.
Yeah.
Now,
So let him have it. I'm just kidding.
Let the dogs loose.
What makes any like a fight that really stands out to me, like the whole thing is always catharsis. And then obviously like them like picking up things that they learned. Like if someone has they like learn a specific thing and then they apply it, that's the thing I'm like, that was great. If there is an opponent that is like that has been like strong and like the hero doesn't just like see, 'cause, like I would have to like spoil mangas, and I will say not very many mangas and anime have impressed me with their fight scenes. The best one that comes to mind is in Chainsaw Man, where people are fighting the Santa.
Yeah.
That's vague enough for you to not understand what that means for spoilers, I guess.
But no one would know.
But if you're like, how dare you, you can, we're at the end of the episode, you can.
No one would even know what you're, I still am like, huh?
Yeah,
no one knows,
but
it doesn't even make sense in context.
What that fight does is you have multiple characters, except for one, which is a legitimate issue I have with this series, but they do their moves that I have learned. One of the characters specifically has gone through some training and they're applying it more. They're put into a position where like they don't even want to like be in this fight and fight some of the people that are attacking them. So it is this like morality issue, and they're using new techniques to like maneuver around this fight. And then you have like, oh, here's some like new minor characters, and this guy, okay, here's some clear rules that he has. Here's clear rules this person has, and okay, that gets countered this way. They're all fighting, and then the way it's won at the end is the guy does a wild move that is in character for him. There's a very clear downside to him when he activates his shining power.
Yeah.
So that was a fight that I really enjoyed because I got to see a lot of character development in the fight. That's what I got from it. It wasn't just that like, oh, now he unlocked a new move and he's going to use it. It was like I have seen, and I am seeing more of, this guy is the kind of fighter who will do these drastic moves to, like, win a fight. Now, if we want to talk about books...
save it for our bonus podcast episode.
Well, we won't. But there's an example of a good fight. Now, if we want to talk about a Hunter x Hunter thing that I think embodies what I don't like about their fights, is when, I'll keep this vague, which... sure, spoiler free, but it'll also probably annoy you, is people discover that they have a power. And what I was expecting was like a series of fights where they like learn how to use it. And what I get instead is they one-hit KO people in like a montage of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get from that, because it is they got stronger. And they just win now. So I don't see how that is using intelligence.
I will say, and I know you watched it up until the dodgeball arc, I will say that I think you're focusing, and a lot of this might be coming from the arc, the sort of tournament battle style arc where Gon and Killua have to fight in that skyscraper where they first discover Nen and are taught Nen. It is a lot of like them learning how to use Nen very quickly, and a lot of montages of them just constantly winning. And it does, I think the fights do get way more interesting after that. And I do think that was a good part of the series for other reasons than the fights specifically. But I do think that when you say that, it reminds me of that arc. And I think that there are other parts of the series. And unfortunately, I know you watched it really far in, but I think there are a lot of parts afterwards and later on, especially with the Chimera Ant arc, and specifically Gon has like a very intense character moment and fight where he does, he is pushed to a psychological sort of like edge that he's never been to before. And I think it's all these episodes and all this time with him with us seeing him be able to like handle all these things, to finally see him unable to handle them psychologically, I think made it way more powerful. But again, it did take a long time to get there, and I know how you feel about that too. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that where Chainsaw Man does have that, like you said, character growth within a fight, I think Hunter x Hunter might have that to a less extent, but I do think their focus, I think, is finding creative typesets or move sets or just powers in general and finding creative ways to use them. It's not necessarily so much with like how the fights are resolved, but it's getting to see all these really interesting and complex abilities be used in a fight.
The spectacle isn't enough for me.
Was that?
I just have to say
That's like the fights aren't like visually.
Do the Cody raise your hand?
no, it's okay. Keep
Go.
going.
Go.
It was gonna be a dumb joke
No,
as
just say it.
usual.
No, you got to say it now.
No, Cody, keep going.
You were gonna tell one of his jokes.
No.
Okay, Cody, continue, Cody.
It's not that the fights aren't like visually uninteresting. And again, like when I first was getting ready to like watch Hunter x Hunter, because my friend was like, before even you guys, he was telling me like, oh, you have to watch it. You have to get to the Comparative arc. I assumed in my head, well, that's got to be like the second arc. But like, which is the crazy part about the anime and manga community is they will just be like, well, wait till the 13th season.
Cody,
Right.
Lalori, let it go.
That's just
that was her joke.
that's just a unique.
and if you can't, Lalori, let it go. Get gone before I kilo you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
It was worth
Yeah.
it. Oh,
Yeah.
that joke depended on you interrupting me.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Usually they do though.
Yeah, usually they do. And yeah. But I look, and again, I know for some people this might be talking in circles, but
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, and I feel differently, and I understand it's a crazy thing to ask someone to get that far before something gets good. And I think for a lot of people, it's good way before that.
It's
And me
just-
being one of those people.
A unique part of the anime manga community
Right.
is
Yeah.
you are asked to like invest that
I
much time.
guess.
It isn't like, wait till the third book and then you'll like it.
I
know,
know, and I get it. And
It's not a complaint. It's just a weird part. Not weird. It's a part of it where it's like you have to like already invest all this like time and like, like focus to this series, and that relies on me like already relating and liking these characters and like finding them emotionally appealing.
Me and Cody, for everybody listening, we're gonna put this to rest, and me and Cody have a bet. And if I don't hold up my end of the bargain, then which is reading a book that I said I was going to read, and to him it's taking me too long. If I don't read it in a certain amount of time,
let's stress that deal was we would both read a book the other one wanted, and I read the book you wanted.
you're just a fast reader. And if I
3 months ago,
if I do hold up my end of the bargain, then Cody has to watch the Chimera Antark.
I have to watch up until it, and then I'm like. That includes me actually paying attention.
So I'm gonna read it for you guys watching and listening. So he has to sit through the.
And
Chimera
I won't say what
Antark.
happens if I win, but Josh will have to admit some things.
Megan. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Megan. Volume 1, Sean, why don't you read us one more comment before we get out of here?
This one comes from Bizarre Gold. Cody the Jock. Megan the Theater Kid. Josh the Emo. And Volume 1 Sean as the teacher that watches over the club. That is very true, yes. 3 kids with difficult backgrounds come together to form the Manga Club. Yet another dynamic idea for the Volume 1 manga.
Wow. We gotta
now.
start a volume 1 manga.
I mean, to be in a manga club with you guys in school would have been the tits.
Would have been a nightmare.
would have been the tits.
Oh.
Emo, you and me talking?
Oh yeah.
What about me?
Yeah, you would have been the saving grace.
Yeah, but
Really?
the second you miss school.
The second you talk.
No. The second you have to miss class or miss a club meeting because
it's
someone's birthday.
Oh my god, you guys are so funny. You should be comedians.
Thank you.
Oh my god, you guys practice that or
And that's a
what?
little peek behind the
that was
volume one
in
curtain
the
right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that was in the
Oh
that
my
was,
god.
yeah. That was instinct,
Yeah.
gut.
Oh. Got
And
it.
also, speaking of birthdays, check this segue out. Speaking of birthdays, Cody, can you grab that cake for me, please? Thank you so much. We were gifted
Love it.
from one of our really good friends, and I did want to just show it on the podcast.
Yes.
A really cool a gift. It is a cake commemorating our 1,000 subscriber mark. Can you see this on camera? I don't know if you can or not.
Put a little bit.
There we go. If you're watching, this is a very, very cool cake. You're in the
It says congrats on one. You can't really see it.
Yeah, you can't see it, but it's congrats on 1,000 subs. We might have to get it changed because we're at 15 now. No big deal.
Yeah,
Oh my god!
I'm just kidding.
Josh.
Just kidding. Very grateful. We're very
Thank
grateful.
you,
This was
Miguel.
really cool. Thank you. Shout out Miguel. We just wanted to thank him because that's a very
Yay.
nice, kind,
Honestly,
cool thing to do.
It was so. I was not. He
You
kept
guys were
like
blown away.
tiptoeing around. He's like, "Oh, Miguel, it's a surprise for us," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And like. Cody, obviously, you guys are more friendly with Miguel. So I was like, what it could it be? I couldn't even think of anything. Cody could think of anything.
Yeah.
And you show up with the nicest surprise of all time? Like, are you fucking kidding
Yeah.
me? Like, how...
Well, Miguel did. Not
Yeah, not Cody.
not
No,
John.
no.
And not me either.
No, I'm
but-
just saying, Miguel. It's so nice, and it's so heartfelt. And
Yeah, and he listens to some episodes. So
oh,
And that's
my
all that we really ask of him.
and I can't
God.
seriously, I don't tell anyone I know to listen to this podcast.
I get it. I mean,
do you tell your coworkers to listen?
coworkers? No.
Yeah.
But
well,
not
they
because I'm
say-
embarrassed or anything. I do love doing this podcast, and it's just because I don't want to have to talk to them about
Before
it at
that-
work when I'm in a bad mood because I'm at work. You know?
That brief circle where we were
Or they won't
working
talk.
at the same job.
What?
No one knew I did a
Careful.
podcast, and it was. I just don't like when they're like, "Oh, maybe I'll check it out," and I'm like, either check it out or don't tell me you will. I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't be like, "Oh, I'll check it out." I'm like, then do it.
Yeah, you're probably not, and that's fine.
Yeah, don't lie to me. Don't force me into a situation where I have to pretend that I believe you.
Yeah.
My dad listens, and that's the main.
And we all
the main
love
heart
your
of
dad,
that.
dude. And we can't wait to start making some content with your dad, dude.
Oh, we'll be
That's
making
coming.
lots of content.
Lots
with
of
your dad.
content.
Stop
with your
saying it
dad.
like
What?
that.
He's gonna be on it.
We're gonna be content kings.
Yeah.
Why are you saying it like that?
Yes. So thank you guys so much for all of your comments. Shout out to Miguel for this beautiful cake. And
You're
thank you,
fucking MVP.
MVP, and thank you. Again, I know we did our live show
Your good
commemorating
friend
it.
Miguel Gutierrez.
Yeah, we gotta keep his name anonymous, or
Yeah.
give him a pen name, an
Miggy.
alias, Miggy.
Miggy or Miggy.
Yeah. And honestly, I know we did have our 1K celebration and everything like that, but it is amazing as always. Just the support that we continue to get from you guys, it does mean the world to us.
My God.
And speaking of support, we have to shout out our Patreon members. Thank each and every single one of you, our new members, our just continuing members. Your support helps us out a lot, means a lot, and it's because of you guys that we can go. I cannot go to get rad coffee and instead
put 'em
go
on?
get construction paper and glue to make bunny ears.
Yeah, Josh is such a hard worker.
Go to Rad Coffee and pay $3 for them to put like 2 pieces of Captain Crunch in your coffee.
I mean, that's all coffee shops,
Yeah, I
They're looking
paid
for a
like
gimmick.
$7 for my coffee
wild.
this
It's
morning.
definitely, I only go there as like a celebration.
But
for
hey,
events.
I was pretty hyped up.
Okay, yeah, it's starting to wear off, huh?
It was fun, and we're sitting next to a store and play Lady Gaga, and literally audibly I said, "Oh fuck yeah," and it was pretty funny. But you weren't.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there. It was
Yeah.
a really good moment. Me and Cody bonded over video games and stuff. Nothing you could really
Oh,
talk about.
yeah.
Yeah, if you want to become a Patreon member and help support the show,
Yeah,
and
you'll never know what kind of video games I play.
you can go to patreon.com/volume1pod. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
If you are listening to, leaving a review and rating us helps us out a lot. And so if you could do that, that would be another way that you could support us free of charge.
5 stars, guys.
5 stars.
That
Be
would
part of that algorithm
amazing.
gang too. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. All that's left to do now is to get out of here on our outro that's always the same and never changes, which I think today should be.
Wait. How old are you?
Oh, no. That hurt me. That hurt me. That hurt me. 23. 23.
23. You look 23.
Thank you. You look 23 is not our outro.
You
we
look
could say,
23.
like life lessons.
Life lesson
With
number
volume 1.
Listen to
Life
volume
lessons with volume
Volume
1.
1.
volume
Podcast.
Life volume 1. Life lesson number volume 1.
God, it gets worse.
Hold on.
Life lessons, you
Volu-
only live volume once.
That's what it feels like.
I think is that what it feels like? I think life lessons with volume.
Life
1.
only gets worse.
That's sad.
Life
Okay,
only
is
gets
it-
worse
is it a
with
lie?
volume 1.
No, but life gets better with volume 1.
Life
Okay.
gets.
Life gets better with volume 1. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys won't like it, but we're gonna do it. Thank you guys, as always, for
what I'm talking
watching
about.
Every time.
and
what I'm
listening.
talking
That's why I
about.
wasn't invited for
That's all it
coffee.
is.
And until next time,
Life lessons with.
this has been Life Lessons from Volume 1.
That's not what we said. That's not what you said.
I don't know.
Life gets better.
Oh yeah, life gets better.
gets
Yeah,
better.
yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
You came up with
sorry,
it.
Sorry. I got emotional about the coffee thing.
know you
okay.
did.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
We invite
And remember,
Life gets better with volume 1. Hey kids, why don't we go to the board? And we did invite Josh and Coffee.